What's going on, guys, and welcome to episode 450 of AskGSM here today for Wednesday, July 13th, 2022. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great week so far. I teased the possibility last week and the week before of potentially going live today for episode 450, but just didn't quite work out. It's a busy day today, so maybe another time. Hopefully at some other point this summer or later on in the year. We haven't done a live stream in a while. We obviously will go live for episode 500, which is not going to be for another year. We did just celebrate, 9 years of hashtag, which I said last week or the week before, which is just wild to think about. We just celebrated the 9-year anniversary of the show. So next year will not only mark 500 episodes, but also 10 years of the show. I would love it for it to culminate perfectly where we can do it on the exact 10-year anniversary of the show. I don't know if it's going to work out exactly that way. I might have to skip a week or two, and I never really want to do that, so we'll see. We'll see, but at any rate, we are here for episode 450. That's enough for episode 500 until next year. Today, we're talking your questions from YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Drop a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. So a lot to get into here today, a lot of questions from all three platforms. Before we get into all that, I do want to quickly just promote my interview with The Undertaker did drop on Sunday here on the channel, or rather last Friday. So if you haven't already watched that or read the article over on Bleacher Report, please do so. We're going to have an interview this coming weekend dropping on Sunday morning with none other than WWE Hall of Famer, former multi-time world champion in WWE and WCW, Goldberg, coming back here to the channel to chat with me all about his new A&E biography, dropping that Sunday on A&E. A lot like we did with Taker last week, so we got that to look forward to on Sunday. Keep an eye out for that. And other interviews to come in the weeks preceding SummerSlam at the end of the month. So let's get right into it here with the questions. We got a ton of questions from... Let's see here. Micah does it from YouTube. I'll just kind of go lightning round here because he sent in a lot. Do want to answer as many as possible. He asked, when do you think we will see MJF return to AEW? I don't think it would be in the next month. All Out isn't until early September. I mean, honestly, it could go either way. They could play the long game with this and wait until CM Punk comes back, and then they bring in MJF. Because I feel like the ultimate endgame should be MJF and Punk for the top championship. And I think MJF's first world title should be the world championship and not the interim title. So that's what I would do. They could have MJF come back before then, beat Moxley for the championship, and then build a Punk and MJF at some other point, maybe for Double or Nothing next year based on when Punk is back. I don't know. But we'll soon see. So I don't know. We could see him back tonight. We could see him back in the next month. When do I think he'll be back? Probably... I'm going to say at the end of the summer. He cut that big promo about 6 weeks ago, early June. I think it was June 1st, if I'm not mistaken, the first Dynamite after Double or Nothing. I think they'll wait until after All Out. I think they'll start building towards All Out tonight. I think they're actually announcing the location for the event tonight on Dynamite Fyter Fest. So they could start the build tonight to a big MJF match at that pay-per-view with or without CM Punk. I don't think Punk will be back in time for that show. I could be wrong. I don't think he will be, but we'll find out tonight. We'll have a better idea tonight, I would say. And it's not, if he's not back tonight, he won't be on the show, but I feel like if they are going to do anything with MJF on that pay-per-view, they should bring him back on the sooner side so we don't get a rush build going into that show. So I'm going to say the end of the summer, if not early September, we will see MJF back in AEW. I want to see him pop up elsewhere before then, though. We have not heard of him. We have not heard anything of MJF in AEW. They have not mentioned his name. They don't show his face. He's not on the website or anything, which is great. But at the same time, though, play up the angle by having him tweet something or show up somewhere else or try to get into WWE or another promotion. Maybe he shows up at Death Before Dishonor. Who knows, you know? But I would do something along those lines to at least reignite the angle and remind people of what's going on, because so much has happened since that first promo he cut 6 weeks ago that the buzz is completely gone. You want to heat that up again by having him do something really electric in the next couple of weeks to remind people of what the storyline with MJF is and to look forward to his inevitable return to AEW TV. If WWE and AEW ever did a Forbidden Door show, what are your top 5 dream matches that you would want to see? My answer now is so completely different than it would have been even 3 years ago because so many people have left each respective company. But like a Kenny Omega AJ Styles match, I've said before, is a match I know both guys want, specifically Omega. And going to AEW is obviously just the bigger pro than going to WWE at that point for that match with Styles back in 2019. They're both, if Omega is not 40, he will be at some point soon. Styles is already mid-40s, I think. They're both fantastic, and I think a match between those two before they call it a career would be amazing. I think they faced off before many, many years ago, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that, but that was way before they became who they are today. So Styles and Omega would probably be the top one. Roman Reigns, and I feel like a babyface like Adam Page would be great. I don't know if it's a dream match, but Moxley and Rollins, we've seen a lot. I feel like this Moxley and this Roman Reigns would be fucking awesome. We never really got a proper Ambrose-Roman match in WWE, but this version of Roman and that version of John Moxley of Dean Ambrose, I feel like would be amazing. So I feel like those two against each other would make for a great matchup. Women's wise, Bayley and Britt, as far as a match, wouldn't be anything special, but I feel like as far as the promos and the character work, that would be cool. I'm not sure. I'm trying to think of other big matches that would really come to mind, because WWE doesn't have a ton of stars at this point, and a lot of the people that are in AEW came from WWE first, so we've already seen a lot of these matches before. As far as other top matches, Cody Rhodes is back in WWE. Maybe you can have him face someone from AEW, like an Adam Page or an Adam Cole, a match that we never got on a major stage before Cody Rhodes went to AEW and before Adam Cole went to WWE. So those are a few. I don't really have a set 5, and it really isn't easy to come up with matches because WWE's roster is so depleted of major stars. But those are a few that I would love to see. Any real combination of a Forbidden Door show, those two companies would be cool, but I know that will never happen, so I'm not even really getting my hopes up or ever really expecting it to happen at any point down the road. His next question, do you think Cody Rhodes will ever return to AEW, or will he just end his career in WWE? I think it's more likely he ends his career in WWE as far as being an in-ring competitor. Will he ever show up in AEW again? I think it's very possible. If AEW's still around in several years from now, and Cody's done in wrestling, and he's a free agent, maybe he pops over there for one more appearance or just to go home. I mean, he helped create the company, so I feel like it would be weird if we never saw him in AEW again. And he never really got a send-off there, so I feel like just to make one more appearance, and we're talking about a return mere months after he already left, but at some point, years down the road, I feel like it could be a possibility. Anytime soon? Definitely not. His next question, do you think WWE could get Sami Zayn over as a babyface and have him win the WWE title in a Kofi Mania type storyline? I think he can get over as a babyface. Could he win the World Championship? I mean, I know I was just pitching him as Mr. Money in the Bank 2 weeks ago, but I just don't see them ever putting the championship on Sami. And I said the same thing about Kofi for years. I never expected them to make him World Champion. I mean, that guy was there for so long, and they did fucking nothing with him for so long that I just never expected that to happen. But, I mean, it's possible. But Kofi was that's part of the reason why Kofi won the championship. He was there for so long. He'd built up this great will with the audience, and Sami has that to a degree now as a heel with everything great that he's done in 2022. But I just don't get that same, I don't know. I feel like he can be an amazing underdog. We saw it in NXT. I don't think could they? Yeah, they could do that. Will they? Probably not. Is it possible? I don't see why not. Have they really made him out to look like a threat and built him up the right way? Sami Zayn as a top-tier babyface winning the World Championship for a quick underdog moment. I don't see anything wrong with that, but like I said, I just don't see them doing that. Let's see. His other questions included, what do you think of Cena versus Gunther IC title match at SummerSlam instead of Cena versus Theory? Cena has never been Intercontinental Champ, and you could build a story around Cena wanting to become a Grand Slam champion. The funny thing about that, and I completely agree, I think that'd be cool. First of all, Cena and Gunther as a match sounds fucking awesome. So sign me the fuck up for that. But even if it wasn't for that championship, I would still want to see it. Cena going for the Intercontinental Championship for that reason, you think it would be cool? I think it would be cool. The problem is that WWE, they've mentioned the whole Grand Slam champion thing on their shows. Mrs. brought it up a time or two recently. Oh, I'm the first ever 2-time Grand Slam champion. How much does that really mean, though, to the average viewer that has no fucking clue what any of that means? Like the whole Triple Crown thing, we discuss it as fans sometimes. I really don't see a lot of people putting much stock in it nowadays, probably because it doesn't mean remotely as much as it once did many, many years ago. I just don't think the average viewer gives a shit about that, so to build a story around it, I mean, it would be cool for us. Would it be cool for a majority of the audience? Would most people care? No. I just think Cena and Gunther sells itself, with or without the championship. But Cena's best work came during that U.S. title era, so him kind of going for a mid-card title upon his return next time would be cool, but I feel like Cena might be even beyond that. I mean, he was beyond that in 2015, but in 2015, he wasn't a part-timer yet. He's a part-timer now. If you have Cena back for only a finite period of time, you're probably going to use him in a marquee match, if not for a world championship match. And the 17th title also is... I feel like if he were to come back, he would want to chase that 17th world title again, aside from being a Grand Slam champion, over being a Grand Slam champion. I feel like that's just not a priority for him as a person or as a character. But Cena and Gunther, even if Gunther was world champion by that point, would be fucking awesome at some point down the road. There's really not many intriguing matches left for me, honestly, for John Cena in WWE, because he's worked with the majority of the roster, and they've only lost talent in the last couple of years and not really gained any. I mean, they have created stars, and some of them either left or got fired. Like, to me, Cena and Karrion Kross and Keith Lee would have been awesome, but they both got cut, among many others. So we never really had a chance to see that. But yeah, just making the most of the current roster, Cena versus Gunther at some point, with or without the Intercontinental Championship on the line, I feel like would be really, really cool. His next question, would you be interested in Eve Torres returning to WWE? Yeah, the crazy thing about Eve was that she was such the prototypical women's wrestler for WWE at that point. And I don't mean that in a bad way, like... you looked at her, she was a beautiful girl, she screamed diva. But the thing about Eve, though, to her credit, I mean, that was back when they were doing 30-second divas matches, women's matches, which they called them divas at the time. But she actually improved. From the time that she showed up first in the Divas Search in 06 or 07, won the whole thing, and then started wrestling in WWE. She was an announcer for a little while, but after that, she started wrestling more, and she actually got better. She won the Divas Championship a whole bunch of times. Her heel run was great. It didn't last very long. She was only a heel for about a year from when the whole Cena-Zack Ryder thing happened, and then before she left in January of 2013. The crazy thing about Eve is that she came back, I think, for the Slammies later that year. She may have come back for something else, like one of those Raw reunion shows. She has never come back for a match. And she's had her kids, and I assume she's still in great shape. She's married to one of the Gracie guys, I think, one of the MMA people. I'm not too well versed in that sort of stuff, but I assume she keeps in great shape. Would she want to come back for a match? I don't know. I mean, I feel like it would have happened by now. She left almost well over 9 years ago, almost a decade ago. Eve Torres was last in a ring in WWE. So I feel like that time has passed. I don't think she'll ever be back. I thought she might be back for a time, and I thought it would have been cool. But like Eva Marie left in 2017. She came back in 2020, 2021. She was back within 3 or 4 years. You know, she came back within 4 or 5 years from her last match in 2016. She came back in 2021. It's been almost a decade. I feel like if you're not back within 4 or 5 years, you're probably never coming back for a full-on run. Although Michelle McCool was gone for about 7 years, but again, even Eve has been gone for longer than that. Michelle McCool left in 2011. She came back for a Rumble appearance or two in 2018, and again, I think even this year, I believe, if not another Rumble as well. So I don't see it happening, but it would be great to see Eve back in WWE, if only for a one-off one of these days, because I was always a big Eve fan. And then his last question here on YouTube. Now that Wardlow is TNT champion, should he do the open challenge on Dynamite every week to make the title more relevant, sort of like Cena did with the U.S. Championship back in 2015? I mean, not even like... Cena kind of started that trend, not that the open challenges were a new thing when Cena did it, but he kind of popularized it when he did it in 2015. That's not even the most recent comparison. Cody Rhodes did what Cena did with that same very championship that you're talking about, that TNT title back in 2020. When they first created that championship and he won it, he was doing open challenges almost every week. And it wasn't always an open challenge. Most weeks were an open challenge. That was how we got Ricky Starks in AEW. That was how we got Eddie Kingston in AEW. But sometimes they also had it answered by Sonny Kiss, among other people. But they would also announce matches for him in advance. Like Jungle Boy, like Jake Hager, I remember, like Brody Lee, who ended up winning the thing. among other people, Orange Cassidy, they would announce some of those matches in advance. I thought Cody had a great run as TNT champion for as long as it lasted, for May to August. It wasn't that long, but it was one of the highlights of Dynamite during that early pandemic era. So Wardlow bringing it back. He's just not the same competitor that Cody is, and he's not the same character that Cody is. You could do that. I mean, it is like a TV title sort of thing. I don't think he has to defend it every week, but he should defend it more than fucking Scorpio Sky did, and Sammy Guevara had fairly frequent championship defenses, but just book Wardlow to be dominant. I feel like this reign is more about Wardlow establishing his dominance than it is the TNT title. But I think in helping Wardlow, it'll also help the championship. I don't think it should be just to restore the championship because Wardlow is the one on the rise right now, but I think the championship will benefit from being around Wardlow's waist. So I don't think he needs to do the open challenge every week or have a championship defense every week, but maybe every other week. There's a lot of great talented people on that roster. They have a very deep roster in AEW. There's no shortage of opponents for him in that company. Let's see. The other YouTube question comes from No L. They got two here, actually. First one being, do you see either Io Shirai, or not Io Shirai, that's the next question. Do you see either Toni Storm or Thunder Rosa going heel when the rematch happens? Maybe. I don't see that happening. I feel like they already have Britt. They might turn Jamie Hayter, so I guess they could benefit from another top heel. They have Serena Deeb as a heel. Ruby Soho's a babyface. Athena just came in. Chris Statlander. I guess they could turn one of them heel. I would turn Toni Storm. I mean, they're both over, but I just feel like Thunderstorm, that's a great team name, I think. But Thunder Rosa is just such a great babyface. And because of that, I would turn Toni Storm. The problem is, and maybe it was just the circumstance and the timing and whatever, Toni Storm turned heel first in WWE a few years ago in 2020 when she was still in NXT. She was a good heel, but it never really clicked. Like, it was never really that great of a run. She wasn't a heel for that long. She turned heel in late 2020, and then she was a heel through the rest of her NXT run, which only lasted for another 6 or 7 months before she got called up to the main roster. She's just such a natural babyface, I think. You can try. I just don't think either of them have to turn. Do I think they will turn? No. Would I turn either of them? Probably not right now. Toni just got here. She's still kind of finding her footing. I don't think she'd be a great heel right now, and I don't think Thunder Rosa should turn either. Thunder Rosa would have a reason to turn in that she's been kind of an afterthought as champion for the most part. Her reign has gotten better in recent weeks and recent months, but she kind of has been booked like an afterthought, so she could say, oh, you know, I was the one that was the real workhorse of this division. You guys don't care about me anymore, blah, blah, blah. There's a story to be told there. I still wouldn't do that, though. I still wouldn't turn her heel quite yet, if not anytime soon. Just because she's still so over as it is, so why flush that down the toilet for no real reason? So I think they'll have a rematch. Maybe Toni wins. It's very possible. I don't think either of them turn heel quite yet, though. I could be wrong, and maybe they'll sell me on it, but right now I'm not loving that idea. Their second question, the second part of their question, do you think it's time for Io Shirai to go somewhere else after her contract expires, like go back to Stardom or maybe AEW? Yeah, I mean, her time in WWE is coming to an end for sure. I just don't see her sticking around. There's nothing more for her to do in NXT itself. And as much as a boost it would be to have her on the main roster, one, I don't expect them to book her accordingly. And two, I just don't think she's interested in being on the main roster. It sounds like from all the reports that she wants to go back to Japan to be closer to her family. I think she got married a year or two ago. I think to Evil, actually. To Evil of New Japan. So, I'm not really sure what else her situation entails, but I wasn't too surprised when she stayed 2 years ago because she was still really, really hot. She had a lot of momentum. People loved her, whatever. She hadn't won the championship by that point. So when Kairi Sane left, I wasn't too shocked. And I think we talked with this here on the show at the time, like, oh, could you see Kairi Sane leaving or Io Shirai or whatever. Io Shirai, I was surprised if she were to leave just because she hadn't quite had her run yet. Kairi Sane did. She was in NXT. She was successful. She went to the main roster, had some success, but they clearly were not going to focus on her as any real threat. So her leaving was not, it was a big deal, but I wasn't too shocked. I'm like, okay, that might be for the best. With Io Shirai, it probably is at this point for the best for her. Going to the main roster is a risk. She wants to be closer to home. I don't see her going to AEW. If she wants to go to AEW, I mean, I guess she could. She could still go home to Japan, move back there, and then make the appearances in AEW every once in a while. Her in Stardom, I think that's where she was originally. You said go back there. I think that's where she was originally. It's very, I would assume she'll go back to Stardom. It would be a shame if we don't see her back on a regular basis on US TV. So that's why I would say go to AEW. Would she be used accordingly? Would she even want to go there? I don't know. Maybe make the occasional appearance there, especially if AEW is trying to work with Stardom. I feel like that would be perfect for Io. I mean, if they're trying to work with Stardom, she could have the best of both worlds. She can make the occasional appearance in AEW, but then also live in Japan and wrestle regularly for Stardom. So I feel like that'd be perfect. Let's see. Now to the Facebook questions. Just got to pull them up here. I think the other one, this is from Noel as well, from Facebook. Let's see. All right, we got 2 Facebook questions. One from No and then one from Justin. We'll start with Noel because we're already on there. Questions from YouTube. What would your top 5 best/worst heel turns in WWE be? Oh, I have no fucking clue. Jericho, I mean, I'll just give a couple that I thought were great. Heel turns, from what I've been a fan for since 2008. Jericho's heel run was awesome. Like his heel turn, that was literally right when I started watching, was in 2008, right when Jericho turned on. I think it was actually on my birthday he turned heel on Shawn Michaels on the highlight reel. So that one sticks out to me. Punk turning heel in 2009 I thought was just so well done. When he cashed in Money in the Bank and people were booing him because they love Jeff Hardy. It just worked so well. That was a really, really good heel run. That was a great heel run and the heel turn. Oh, man. Roman Reigns' heel run has been awesome. The turn itself was kind of non-existent. I mean, there was a turn, but, I mean, there were no fans, and it wasn't like one particular moment that really stands out. Him appearing alongside Paul Heyman was awesome at the end of that SmackDown, even though there were no fans. I mean, there was the Thunderdome, but it's not the same. That was pretty cool. Io Shirai's heel turn in 2018 in NXT was terrific. I remember that one very vividly. That one was fantastic. I don't know. Those are the ones that really stand out. I'm sure there's many, many more, but I'm just thinking I don't really have anything prepared for this. And I mean, there's just so many great heel turns that not just one comes to mind, but those are a few. Specifically Roman's from a couple of years ago, because it was so overdue and we waited for it for so long. We finally got it, and the run has even exceeded expectations. Justin's question from Facebook as well. Do you think that AEW should just do away with Dark and Dark Elevation and have Ring of Honor be in their place, since rumors that Ring of Honor will be used for their younger talent? Or do you see Ring of Honor as a standalone brand once it's up and going? I mentioned this last week because John Ritland, that is, shout out to John, he sent in questions I'll get to in a moment. He mentioned last week, what would you do with the YouTube shows of AEW? I feel like it's a lot, they don't serve a purpose, whatever. And I agree. I mean, they give people a platform to get better. I mean, as a viewer, the shows really aren't remotely worth watching. I just kind of watch them to review them, but they do give people more exposure and experience, and I think that's nice. To have 2 shows like that, I feel like is overkill when they're basically the exact same sort of show, except one's usually filmed in Universal, one of them's filmed on the road before Dynamite and Rampage and whatever. But what I said last week, I think I said this, but I've been saying this for a little while now, why not use one of those YouTube shows for Ring of Honor? I don't think it should be a standalone brand. I think it will be, because otherwise by now, why the fuck wouldn't you have used one of those shows already? They bought Ring of Honor 4 months ago. Almost 4.5 months ago. And they're doing their pay-per-view next weekend. It's going to be great, I'm sure. I'll be there. I'm looking forward to it. But I just feel like they should use the YouTube show as the Ring of Honor show, because they could film it on the road. Maybe they could film it in Universal Studios or something. I feel like selling tickets to a standalone Ring of Honor show and then airing it on its own is a recipe for disaster, because currently very few people give a fuck about Ring of Honor. Even the most diehard AEW people are probably not going to watch Ring of Honor when there's already so much other AEW programming to watch. And specifically if it's not going to feature many of their favorites. Maybe the occasional Joe and Jay Lethal and stuff, and that's great. But I feel like it's got to air under the AEW umbrella. Just air it on the AEW YouTube channel. They already have millions of subscribers on that channel. They have a built-in fan base for their social media. Just air it there. I mean, they're not going to get it on TV when Rampage's ratings are as shitty as they are. And understandably so, at 10 o'clock at night on the East Coast on a Friday night. I mean, no shit that the ratings aren't going to be great. I don't see them having another time slot available on TNT or TBS to air Ring of Honor, which hasn't even had formal TV. even well before AEW in many years, if ever. I mean, they were on Sinclair Broadcasting, and I think they still are, but I don't get that. You probably don't get that. How many people actually watch Ring of Honor through that? I've always either watched Ring of Honor through Fight or through their website. So just put it on the AEW YouTube channel. Dark and Elevation are just so completely pointless. One of them serves a purpose. To have two just exactly the same, I think, is stupid. So I agree with you. I've been saying the same thing for a while now. Take one of those shows and make it the Ring of Honor show, specifically Elevation, because Elevation is so completely fucking pointless. Let's see here. At Reborn Again, John Ritland from the Twitter machine, and on YouTube, Real Honesty with John Ritland. Check out his stuff. Does great work, as I always say. His first question was, 13 minutes and 40 seconds was the official time for in-ring action on last week's SmackDown. I know it can't always be constant matches each week, but what the hell are they doing? I mean, that was my question as well. When I heard that, which I didn't realize that when I watched the show, when I watched the show live, I'm thinking, wow, there's really not a lot of wrestling. The fact that in a 2-hour fucking show, they only had 13 minutes of in-ring action, and Rampage that same fucking night, that is an hour long, for a match that went way too long, but just for the mere comparison here, Orange Cassidy and Tony fucking Nese went 15 minutes. Like I said, it should not have been that long. It should have been an 8-minute match. But just on paper, though, the idea that AEW in one match on a 1-hour show would have a match that was longer than 2 hours combined of wrestling on SmackDown. It wasn't a theme show. It wasn't the Slammies. It wasn't anything like that. It was a standard SmackDown. Is fucking embarrassing. And that show sucked. I mean, that first hour was fine. It started out solid. That second hour sucked ass. So, I don't know. I don't really know what the answer to that question would be. I don't know what they're doing. Some weeks SmackDown is bearable. Most weeks it's abysmal. It is fucking abysmal. And it's embarrassing that they would have so much TV time with so little wrestling. We see it on Raw almost every week. At least Raw has some longer matches. I will give them credit for that. SmackDown, I mean, there's no excuse. I mean, they waste so much time with filler and the bullshit and stuff like that. There's just no excuse at all. At Iwagu91, their first question was, what are your thoughts on, I always call him Take Shida. It's not Take Shida. Takashka. Takashka? Konosuke Takeshka. I think it's Takeshka. I could be wrong, but it's something along those lines. It's certainly not Take Shida. But anyway, from what I've seen of him on the dark shows and specifically on Dynamite and Rampage, the guy is great. He is very, very good. There's not many people they bring in that I'm super impressed with that I'm not previously familiar with. But he's someone that has really blown me away with what he can do. And he's hung in there with guys like Jay Lethal, Eddie Kingston, Adam Page a few weeks ago. The guy is really, really good. So I hope they give him more of a look. If he doesn't already have a contract, definitely sign him. I know he's coming over from DDT Pro. And he's had a lot of great exposure. So I don't know how well he can talk. He may not know any English at all. Not that would kill his career. But in the ring, though, the guy is really, really good. And he is worth not even a second look because he's been back multiple times. But he deserves more of a chance to shine. I mean, the guy's really, really good. So I've been thoroughly impressed so far from what I've seen of him on AEW programming. His second question, do you think AEW should upload matches from Dynamite, Rampage, and the pay-per-views on YouTube for free, much like what WWE, Impact, and Ring of Honor do? No, I mean, they should, but not quite yet, I don't think. I don't blame them for not doing that yet, because they've only been around for 3 years. Ring of Honor and Impact have been around for fucking 20. You know, I know Impact, they've actually aired recent matches on their channel. I'm not even saying, oh, they're only doing old stuff. I know I think they aired like their full Slammiversary shows for free on YouTube, not at the time, but recently they put up their full Slammiversary shows on fucking YouTube right before Slammiversary 2022. I thought that was cool. The thing there, though, why those companies do that, Ring of Honor, I don't know if they still do, but all of those companies you mentioned have streaming deals. The reason why they put the full free matches up on YouTube, all those companies you mentioned, is because they want it to serve as like a promotion or a plug for their streaming services. For WWE, oh, watch this full match from Raw a year ago, or this pay-per-view match from earlier this year or a year ago. If you want more full free matches, sign up for Peacock and you can get the entire event. For Impact, it's Impact Plus. For Ring of Honor, it was Honor Club. I don't know if it's still a thing. I don't even know if they're updating their Ring of Honor YouTube channel anymore. They did for a while. And Ring of Honor really would not upload that much stuff on their channel. Impact does it far more, and WWE does it more than anyone else. WWE did not start doing that and uploading the full matches on a consistent basis until the pandemic happened. When COVID hit and there wasn't really a lot going on, I'm sure they boosted a lot of their social media numbers, specifically on YouTube, by uploading these free full matches from years past. And they have such a deep fucking catalog. AEW does not have that deep catalog yet. They've been around for 3 years. They have a lot of great events. But to put full free pay-per-views on their YouTube channel would be ridiculous. But the problem with that and not doing that is that there's really not a place to go to watch every old pay-per-view. Yeah, there's Bleacher Report, there's, Fight and stuff. I don't think Fight has any of the old shows. Bleacher Report, I think, is kind of where you have to buy them. But even if you buy one show, you might be able to hold on to it and go back and rewatch it, I think. But it's not like Bleacher Report. I write for Bleacher Report, so I know this as a fact. It's not like a streaming service where you have to become a member, you pay monthly, and then you have all the shows from the last 3 years. It doesn't work like that. You have to pay for each individual show. If you didn't buy Double or Nothing from 2 years ago and you want to rewatch it, you got to buy the whole thing for like $30-$40. They don't have that yet. So they don't really gain much from putting full free matches on their YouTube channel because there's no place for people to go to watch more of it. It boosts their YouTube numbers, I'm sure, if they were to do that. And I wish they would do more of that. It would be cool. Not the full pay-per-views, but, the occasional match and promos and stuff. I mean, promos they kind of do in their entirety on their YouTube channel. I will give them credit for that. Matches, though, maybe free Dynamite matches from a couple of years ago. That wouldn't hurt. But they have to come up with a place where they can put all of their content for people to pay for to watch whenever they want. I would think that's HBO Max. That's involved with the whole Time Warner thing. I think that would make the most sense. Warner Media. I don't know why that hasn't happened yet. Netflix is another possibility. I don't really care much about Netflix. I'm more partial to HBO Max and Peacock and Disney Plus and Amazon and Hulu and whatever. There's really nothing for me on Netflix at all. But yeah, I think it would be a really good idea to start thinking about that so you can start uploading full free matches on YouTube so people can then take that and realize that you can watch all the events in their entirety on a streaming service like HBO Max. His next question here, where do you think Sasha Banks will go to? We've talked about this before. AEW, Hollywood, both, neither. I think she will pop up in AEW at some point, I'm sure. I know their women's division is not as held and as high regard as WWE's. Not to say WWE's women's division is like perceived, not perceived, but like booked to be the most important thing in WWE. It's not. But they are booked with more reverence and I don't know. I mean, it took WWE like fucking 50 years to do this, but the women's division feels much more like a priority now than it has at most points throughout their history. In AEW, their women's division just doesn't even compare as far as how they're booked. They have a lot of great female talent, but as far as how they're booked and portrayed and spotlighted on the show, it's almost not even close. They still have a long way to go as far as that goes. So, that being said, Sasha could still go there and be a star as Mercedes Varnado or whatever, Mercedes KV. I assume it would be her real name, Mercedes Varnado, because that's what she kind of went as in Star Wars and stuff like that. But, yeah, I think, I can't even tell she'll do Hollywood. As other people have said, and I said this myself a couple of weeks ago, how much acting experience does she actually have? She was in The Mandalorian, she didn't have a major role. She had a regular role for a few episodes, and she did well. But beyond that, I have yet to see Sasha do anything remotely close to acting that I think she would do a great job at. Could she do a good job at it? Maybe, based off her WWE work. I think she'd be a great, like, badass bitch, like a heel, so to speak. I just feel like she's just so as a character naturally unlikable that in a movie I feel like she would play a role like that well or a show. But hopefully she's making moves and that happens. She may not go to Hollywood if she doesn't have any offers. I mean, she has that star appeal about her. She looks like a star. She radiates stardom. But if she doesn't get any opportunities to do stuff in Hollywood or to act or to do whatever, to do movies and shows, then it's not going to happen. She's a great media star, but can that translate to the silver screen and doing shows? That is the question. She has contacts with Disney, so hopefully, it works out. Jon Favreau is a big fan of her, I believe, so hopefully it works out and she can land more gigs now that she's presumably or will soon be gone from WWE. But there's nothing guaranteed. Where do I think she'll go? Probably AEW at some point if she wants to continue wrestling. If not, she'll probably just, hopefully continue to boost her stock as far as her profile goes and getting out there in the mainstream eye and whatever by doing more appearances on shows and whatever. Not like TV shows, but if she wants to do TV, she's got to start doing more acting. That's really the key there. So hopefully at some point we'll see what her next move will consist of. At Reborn Again, back to John Ritland here. His question was, who would your current 5 favorite tag teams be? Doesn't matter what company, just which ones do you love watching the most and why? My choices would be FTR, Guerrillas of Destiny, Starks and Hobbs, Jeff Cobb and Great O'Khan, and the Usos. Great answer. I agree with you on definitely FTR and the Usos. Those would be in my top 5. I love the Street Profits, so they'd probably be in there as well. No teams from NXT. No teams from NXT UK. I thought Mustache Mountain was a fantastic team, but they just broke up, so that's not an answer anymore. From AEW, I'm sure there's more I'm not thinking of. Man, I'm trying to think. I love the Lucha Bros. Probably the Lucha Bros. Lucha Bros, FTR, Usos, Profits, and Red Dragon, probably. Oh, I love the Motor City Machine Guns, so probably Motor City Machine Guns from Impact. I'm trying to think who else is in Impact that I can use as an answer here. Impact is a fine tag team division, not great. I love the Briscoes as well. So actually, Briscoes, Motor City Machine Guns, Usos, Profits, FTR. That would probably be my answer. There's probably another team I'm not thinking of, but those would be my top 5. Let's see here. At Reborn Again as well, John Rayland's next question. Do you think there's any chance WWE scales back the amount of stadium shows they'll do starting next year? Just seems like outside of the Rumble and Mania, it's them overreaching given the state of the product. I think we already talked about this as well when the report came out a couple of weeks ago that they didn't fill the stadium for Money in the Bank and they had to move arenas and it was embarrassing and whatever. I think if anything they want to do more stadium shows, but they're already doing a healthy amount. The only change that I would make is probably not doing Money in the Bank in a stadium. Now, I do realize the factor was the fact they were in Vegas, and it was International Fight Week, and that was not a great idea to do a pay-per-view that same weekend in Vegas, so it might do better elsewhere. I will give them that. But I feel like doing SummerSlam in an arena or in a stadium makes sense if they can get enough people. This year will really be the test. They may not be able to fill up enough seats, and they might have to move it for next year. So who knows? But Survivor Series in a stadium would be a disaster. So I'm fine with them doing Rumble. Rumble seems like it's worked out well as far as doing stadium shows for the Rumble. That makes sense. WrestleMania, obviously. The Saudi shows obviously make sense. That's 4 right there. SummerSlam is a good 5th one. And then I don't know if Clash of the Castle will be a regular thing or a one-off show. If it's a regular annual event, I would always do that in a stadium. But yeah, those 5 or 6 make sense. I feel like doing 6 a year, half of your pay-per-views, I would assume, makes the most sense. And I include Mania as one, even though it's 2 nights. Doing Money in the Bank in a stadium would be foolish going forward. I would think you could try it again, maybe. I just don't think it'll work out. Survivor Series, no. And then any other show, no. It's not like they're putting Hell in the Cell in the fucking stadium. That would be stupid. I don't think they will do that. I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think they should do that. But yeah, I think going forward, we'll probably see the same amount of stadium shows to get as many people in the building as possible so they could tout, oh, it's the highest attended event of all time and all this other shit. So that'll probably be the case going forward. At Kyle Rochelle 19, when or if Seth Rollins will ever get his championship match with Roman, why is he not doing anything important right now? I know Theory and Bobby Lashley are getting the push, and that's fine. I like both guys, but Rollins is doing nothing right now. That's actually not true. He's feuding with Riddle, so it's not like he's completely spinning his wheels. He lost Money in the Bank, correct. I was curious what was next for him, and they already teased the him and Riddle feud right before that pay-per-view. And I think that's a great use of both guys. Rollins is great. Riddle is great. Riddle's over. Rollins is over. There you go. It's a fresh feud. It's a fresh match. Perfect for SummerSlam. So, I don't think he's doing nothing. I mean, should he get a rematch with Rowan at some point? Obviously. When that'll happen, I don't know if it ever even will. But for now, him facing Riddle at SummerSlam and probably winning makes the most sense to me. So, I feel like that's a great use of him at that pay-per-view. At noob_n_code 1991, what are your 5 bold predictions for All Out 2022? Theirs were a non-WWE talent debuting in AEW, FTR and the Young Bucks winner takes all, Thunder Rosa versus Taya Valkyrie, Jon Moxley versus CM Punk, and the AEW Trios titles will finally be revealed. I don't really have any bold predictions because we're still 2 months out from the show. It may not even be in Chicago. We'll find out tonight on Dynamite. But you had me up until 2 and 3 there. The Rosa and Valkyrie I think would be great. I just do not expect them to use Taya Valkyrie. She's busy right now in MLW, AAA, Impact, even NWA. She was doing stuff for them a couple of weeks ago. I just don't see them using her. Otherwise, I feel like they would have brought her in already. I said the same thing about Ember Moon, and they ended up bringing her in. I just don't feel like they're going to bring in... I don't think Taya would go to Impact if she was going to go to AEW ultimately. Then again, Mercedes Martinez went to Impact briefly before going to AEW late last year. So again, who the fuck knows? I just don't see that happening. Although I know that Taya teased it. We talked about it here on the show. I think you actually asked me about that a few weeks ago. I feel like it's more likely we get that match in like a AAA show or something than we do it all out. But I would love to be wrong. Moxley and Punk, I don't think Punk will be back by then. Although I hope he is, because that would be an awesome match to do for that show. The other predictions you mentioned, a non-WWE talent debuting in AEW, they seemingly have debuts every fucking pay-per-view, so that would make sense. FTR and the Young Bucks, winner take all, has to be the match. And the Trios titles finally being revealed, that would make sense. I feel like that's got to be inevitable. They've already unveiled a lot of titles already. I know it's a lot of championships for 1 year. We got the new TBS championship this year, the Owen Hart Cup championships revealed. We had the All-Atlantic Championship unveiled and the first champion crowned at Forbidden Door. So I know it's a lot of championships and probably more, and even more introduced from other companies. But, I feel like it's time. I feel like it's time to introduce those Trios titles and get them going it all out. I agree. Closing questions here. We got a couple. One from Noob as well. What are your overall thoughts on Phase 4 of the MCU? Do you think it was a total mess, or do you think it's great with the introduction of Egyptian and Greek gods, as well as Professor Xavier and Mr. Fantastic? Will we see mutants as well as well as the Fantastic Four in the MCU in the future? I mean, the mutants in the Fantastic Four are coming. I mean, that's already confirmed. It's more a matter of when. I don't think it'll be in Phase 4, honestly. I don't know how long Phase 4 is going to last. I feel like we're beyond the whole phase thing, because I feel like that was all about leading into Infinity War and Endgame. We got that. I feel like they're done with that now. I don't know. So far, Phase 4 has been good, though. Great, I don't know. It's been very hit or miss. Black Widow is a very good movie. Not really one worth rewatching, because they came out with it years after they should have. Shang-Chi was actually very good. I thought Shang-Chi was a great movie. Did not give a fuck about the Eternals. Spider-Man was amazing. That was easily the best of the bunch. Doctor Strange was very good. I thought that was a very enjoyable film. I don't know if it was the greatest film that we all expected it to be, but still a very good movie. And the same can be said for Thor: Love and Thunder as well. We'll do a full review of that movie on the Next Panel podcast at some point in the next week or two. But, I enjoyed that as well. The shows have also been good. WandaVision I thought was great. Loki was my favorite. Falcon the Winter Soldier was a very good show. What If I thought was great as well. Hawkeye was good. I enjoy Hawkeye. Not exactly an important show, but it was fine. Fine holiday show. Moon Knight and Miss Marvel, I think have been good. They're just not exactly my cup of tea. You talk about the Egyptian and Greek gods, which is cool. The Greek gods is more Thor, but, the Pakistani gods and stuff like that with Miss Marvel. I think it's a good, enjoyable show. It's moving a little too slow for me, and for a 6-episode series, I don't know, it's a good show, but it's not remotely my favorite. It's honestly towards the bottom. Same thing with Moon Knight. They just didn't exactly capture my attention the same way other shows and movies did. But Phase 4 has been good, and they clearly have a lot more to look forward to with Black Panther later this year. I'm really excited for Guardians 3 coming out in 2023. I think on the exact same day that movie 2 came out. At this point, 5 years ago, by next year, 6 years ago, which is crazy. So that, and then I'm trying to think what else. What else is even coming out? I mean, the Fantastic Four stuff. I'm looking forward to all that. The other shows coming out. So, Phase 4 has been good so far. I'm not one of those people that's going to tell you it's been shit or the MCU lost its luster. They're still pumping out great content. A little frequently with all the shows coming out now, but they're all very good to great stuff. So I honestly don't really have many complaints. Last 2 questions. At the Average Grunt, what is your favorite champion versus champion match in WWE history, not counting title unification matches? Oh, I don't know. One of them that comes to mind, you said favorite. This would probably be it, and I mentioned this match not too long ago when at Iwagu91 asked about it. But Daniel Bryan at that point versus Dolph Ziggler. This is a very weird choice, I know. But Bryan Daniel Bryan versus Dolph Ziggler from Bragging Rights, 2010. Before they did the brand supremacy bullshit at Survivor Series, they were doing it at Bragging Rights in 2009. It was Miz and Morrison, IC champion versus US champion. In 2010, it was Daniel Bryan and Dolph Ziggler. And they had an awesome match. One of the best matches all year in 2010. I thought that was a phenomenal match. And we kind of get matches like that all the time now in AEW and WWE, but back then it was really a treat to get a match that great. So I love that match. Other champion versus champion matches. I mean, it wasn't unification. It was title for title. Cena and Rollins from SummerSlam 2015. I was there for that one. I thought that was an amazing match. One of my favorite matches I've ever seen live from SummerSlam 2015. Again, it wasn't unification though. So I don't know if it would count, because it wasn't a unification match, it was title for title. As far as other ones I've seen, I'm sure there's a lot more I'm just not even thinking of, but... Survivor Series had quite a few. Brock and AJ had an awesome match in 2017 at Survivor Series, and Brock and Bryan had an awesome match as well at Survivor Series. Both of those matches were fantastic. So either one of those would be great. What would be great choices as well. Not Roman and Big E. They didn't do it in 2019. What was 2020? Oh, Roman and Drew had a great match that year, but that had no fans, so it kind of hinders it a little bit. But yeah, those are some of my favorite champion versus champion matches. I'm sure there's many more I'm not thinking of, as I said, but those are the ones that come to mind. At E1 3A, their last question was for the episode: is there no hope for a women's tag team division in WWE? I don't think so. I mean, this company, they just... Women or no women, they do not know how to book tag team wrestling. They just don't. I mean, look at the history of this company. They've had periods where tag team wrestling was great, and the last period where it was consistently great for like a few years was decades ago. Decades and decades ago. There have been periods since then where tag team wrestling has been prominent. They've had great teams and great matches, and they still have great matches. The Usos and the Profits had one of the best matches all year at Money in the Bank 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago. But the division itself is completely fucking depleted, even with the amount of talent they still did have, 2 rosters, 1 roster. They do not know how to book tag team wrestling. Brand split, no brand split, it doesn't matter. There have been periods where they've had a lot of teams and they really focus on it, and then they'll quickly disband a lot of those teams and de-emphasize tag team wrestling. And the same thing goes for women's tag team wrestling. I said from the get-go that, there have been periods where, again, it's the same thing with the women. We were, pushing for women's tag team titles at certain points when they had a lot of teams. But then you realize after 6 months, they broke up a lot of those teams, even after when they created the fucking titles. When they created the championships 3 years ago, they had a lot of teams. They had Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. They had the Riot Squad. They had Bayley and Sasha Banks, Nia Jax and Tamina, Ronda Rousey and Natalya, among many other teams. I think there was another one I'm not thinking of, but they had quite a few teams at that point. They brought in the Kabuki Warriors. And then literally, right after that, they broke up almost half of those teams. And within a year, almost all of them were gone. There was a period where the only 2 teams that we had were like fucking Sasha Banks and Bayley and Nia Jax and Shayna. How many women's tag teams do we even have now? Before Sasha and Naomi walked out, what women's tag teams did we actually have? Nikki Ash and Doudrop? Then are they even a team? I guess they're allies, but they really haven't established anything. They were teasing a change for them that it never really amounted to anything. That was weird. The Nikki Ash shit is just terrible at this point, and it kind of always was, to be honest with you. They don't have any other women's tag teams. So, and even if they were to create more teams, it would not be long after that they would break up a lot of those teams and not care about women's tag team wrestling again. It happens every year. Men, women, whatever. And it happens in NXT. Women in NXT, their tag teams have been great at times, but there have also been times where they have no fucking tag teams. The NXT women's tag team titles were honestly even more pointless than the women's tag team titles on the main roster. Have they been booked more importantly lately than the main roster tag team titles, which aren't even existing anymore at this point? They took them off Sasha and Naomi when they walked out. There has been not a mere mention of those championships since. But prior to that point, though, the NXT tag team titles, yes, were booked with more reverence and importance on NXT than they ever were in the main roster. But even then, they don't have a lot of teams. They broke up India and Persia, because then Persia then got released. They have Toxic Attraction. Dakota Kai and Raquel won the belts for like 3 fucking days. And then Raquel gets called up. And Dakota Kai gets fired. They had Io and Zoe Stark. Io's probably gone. Zoe got hurt anyway. The best part is that they had a good team with Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade, and they broke them up last night, a week after they won the fucking tag team titles. I don't even know if I hate the Cora Jade heel turn, but the fact that they rushed it to where they broke up a week after they became tag team champions is so stupid. I mean, it wasn't as quickly as like when Ambrose turned on Rollins when they won the Raw tag team titles, but the whole thing is just stupid. The whole thing is beyond rushed. There's no division. Who cares? I said this on Twitter. It's no disrespect to the women because there are a lot of great female talents with the amount of effort, with the right amount of effort and attention and dedication and whatever. They can have a great women's tag team division in that company with more women and more focus and more better creative and stuff, but they just will never do that. Even Triple H, I mean, even when he was still running NXT with the NXT women's tag team titles last year, even those were pointless. Those were pointless tag team titles too. I like the idea of tag team titles with the women floating beyond all 3 brands. They do not have the same amount of women rather, they do men. So therefore, there probably should be less titles. If you want to even it out and hire more women, please do so. I think they should. And I've said that before. But they don't have nearly as many, I guess in NXT they do now with all the developmental people, I guess. But they don't, again, that's great. They have more women, so they could do an intriguing women's tag team division. But the problem is the creative sucks. They don't give a fuck about women's tag team wrestling in NXT or on the main roster. So just do away with it. Vince never has cared. I mean, it just seems like the people in charge do not give a fuck. They should care, but realistically, they're not going to. Vince or no Vince or whatever. Maybe without Vince, they'll have a better shot. Maybe they'll bring them back at some point. For now, though, I have no faith. So just do away with them. The main roster belts officially, and the NXT Women's Tag Team titles. I feel like that would just be the better bet. And that's going to do it, guys, for episode 450 of #AskGSM here today for Wednesday, July 13th, 2022. Thank you guys again for 450 episodes. Man, what a ride over the last 9 years. Almost exactly. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. Can't wait for next week. Can't wait for episode 500 next year and the 10-year anniversary of this very show. Until then, though, tweet me your questions at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Drop a comment on the post that I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. Have a great one, guys. Again, thank you very much for 450 episodes of #AskGSM. Here's to another 450 more. Have an awesome one, guys. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.